when Micah and I left, his most favorite part of the practice was when Coach Rhule lost his mind.
When he was getting after people?
Yeah. It harkened. I'm so traumatized. It brought me back to like my old days of us having to go back to the locker room, start practice over, or Coach Osborne, like, this is, fellas, we opened with Michigan State this year. I'm just telling you, this isn't good enough. Like, go back to the locker room.
What was the score of that game?
Pull your heads out. Right? Just stuff like that. Okay?
Is it weirder when a guy gets after you and he's not yelling? Like, is that freakier?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like,
100%.
wasn't like a huge yeller, right?
I prefer Coach Rhule.
Like,
I prefer
it's easier to get yelled at.
I prefer his style.
Yeah, it's easier to get yelled at.
Because they both could, and Coach Rhule's got a ton of work to do to get to the reverence that Coach Osborne had. But for me as an individual player, I would have responded better to Coach Rhule quicker.
Sure.
I didn't get Coach Osborne's philosophy.
Yeah.
Which is why I gravitated towards Coach Solich. Because Coach Solich is a lot more like Coach Rhule than T.O. in terms of their delivery.
Sure.
And remember, the thing that made my huge heart swell, and it's not because I keep receipts, but because I remembered that you were so animate about the dislike of Hurley for some of his mannerisms. And I was like, listen, he's an East Coast guy. It's East Coast toughness. Like this is just kind of who he is. And I gave the analogy. I was like, Ravi, you cheer for a guy that has some of these same mannerisms. He just hasn't turned around and lobbed the bird to a young kid or told a little kid to F off. But don't think like at some point he doesn't actually think it. And then you got into the self-control thing, and we really wanted to differentiate between good guy and bad guy. When I watched this practice and him come unglued, I thought it was the best thing that I had seen in a long, long time, because we had just spent 3 weeks talking about the trickle-down theory. How you command excellence of your assistants, your assistants
behavior.
Your assistants command excellence of your players, the players command excellence of themselves. It just coaches coach coordinators, coordinators coach position coaches coach players, that whole thing, right?
Older players coach younger players.
I wanted to I'm like, you know what? Because truth be told, what I tell you about the scrimmage immediately when I talked to you, I said, you know what?
Not great.
This didn't move my needle.
Yeah.
This nothing. And I specifically said, if anybody tells you X, Y, and Z, they didn't watch. They're just,
or they don't know what they're watching.
They're just playing the fluff piece thing. And I actually think, and it wasn't just the defense. Tony White spoke, so he internalized the part that he had to own. So yeah, he did say some things to the defense. But it wasn't like the offense was winning the day.
Yeah.
Like, don't kid yourself. Like,
that's what I like, though. That's what
too.
That's what I like. Is it's not results based, right?
And nobody like deflected. Like, you ever been around people and
I try not to be.
Coaches will say something, or teachers will say something, or your boss will say something. Inevitably, everybody knows the person that says, well, they ain't talking to me. And there's a really good chance they're talking to you.
If you're the guy that thinks this isn't about me, it's almost certainly
That's why I
me.
always say, listen, you want, like, you're going to get the real me and my personality, the dumb stuff I've done, the mistakes I've made. Why am I authentic? Because if you're bothered by what I'm talking about, there's a good chance you're a reflection of who I'm talking about.
Yeah. You're looking in a mirror.
100%.
Well, so what I liked about the Tony White thing, right? It's this thing I've talked about a million times, right? Nobody's ever 100% right. Nobody's ever 100% wrong in normal situations, right? I don't want somebody to be like, well, what about Hitler? Wasn't he 100% wrong? Like, chill. I'm talking about normal people, all right? Not like genocidal maniacs, okay? Normal, everyday situations. Nobody's 100, because I know I already had it.
Stop.
No, because I already had it this morning. Because Steven chimes and goes, well, actually, Stegosaurus.
How do you know Steven talks like that?
Because it's a well actually guy. They all talk like that. Well, actually, Stegosaurus and T-Rex wouldn't have fought because they lived 80 million years apart. I don't care. They're both at the Lorton exhibit at the same time. Go watch them. and talk about who would win in a fight. It's
Oh
more
man,
fun.
shout out to my man Steve.
Okay. So don't. That's
You're a mess.
That's why I have to preface it with like, okay, in normal situations,
Shane.
I don't need people talking to me about like Mussolini or something. Be like, well, where's his 1% of not being a bad guy?
Hey, how many was the first time a black golfer got to go to Augusta?
I
You
mean,
mad again?
Well, Calvin Peets played 8 times in the 80s. Anyway,
Do you want me to play that white cut?
no.
Yeah.
Let's. I'm
fine.
going to play the longer version of it.
Don't play the longer version. We don't have that much time. We don't have that much time.
Apparently, Chad's not going to call us. We got a whole open segment. Shane, play the cut while Ravi collects his thoughts.
The great ones do. They're not satisfied, right? And they're always figuring out a way. And I said this when my first observations with Coach Rhule, like, you're always looking, you're always finding ways to try to do something better, more efficient. Give somebody more confidence to go out there and do it. Your position coaches, whatever it is, recruiting, the nutrition staff, the weight staff, whatever it may be. He's always looking, and he's always like trying to figure out a way to make things better. And you saw the tape on Saturday. And sure, there's some great individual performances, but as a whole, we talk about taking this next step. And I said this, like, everything is words until it's put in action, right? So you talk about taking the next step where it's not showing up on film. So then you have to go back, and it always starts with me on defense, right? And then going back and saying, how are we talking to the guys? Do they know? Do they see it? And then Coach Coop having great ideas, Coach Dvorak having great ideas, Coach T. Knight having great ideas. Everybody in that D staff room coming together and saying, hey, this is, maybe we need to do this. We need to do this. And it's like, damn, okay, let's do that. And the young men so far have responded 2 practices in. So, kudos to them, and we'll see what happens. We'll go up and watch the film, and then we'll see what happens on Saturday.
So going back to the original point.
I feel like you listened to respond and not to hear. Is that what just happened?
I wasn't listening to that clip at all, if I'm being totally honest.
Do you want me to play the short one instead?
No, don't.
Shane,
Vesuvius is bubbling. It's a lot of trickling lava.
No, because you're talking about how Tony White is.
See what you did, Stephen?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Stephen. Actually, we appreciate you listening. You're talking about how, despite the fact that the defense probably wasn't the biggest culprit in what Coach Rhule was mad about, you're never 100% right, you're never 100% wrong, right? So Tony White's able to look at and say, hey, there is, like, did we play the way we should have, the way our standard is? No, we didn't. So even if we were the better group that day, that doesn't mean we were in the right.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we were winning that day doesn't mean it was good enough. Right? That's the difference between winning close games and losing close games. That's the difference between beating Maryland and Wisconsin and Michigan State and losing those 3 games. Is it good enough, or is it good? Right? Tony White recognized that it may have been good enough on Saturday, but it wasn't good. Right? Good is the standard. Good enough to be better than the offense on that day doesn't matter. Good needs to be the standard, because that's where you can live and die. If you hit the standard, if you hit your own standard, you can live with the results.
Yeah. So the kind of along those lines, what plays to what's right in my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
It's, even though I may not like something somebody's saying to me, what do I always say? Is there any truth to what they're saying?
Sure. Yeah. Can you learn anything from them?
What can I own in this deal to get better? So
I learned a lot of stuff from people I can't stand.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right?
You have to be able to separate the message from the messenger. Sometimes.
And I don't know if I believe you, but I am going to take you at your word, because that would be impressive, because you're very standoffish.
Yeah, but it's because I believe what I believe.
But you're still listening.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to you all the time.
Okay. Anywho. Hey, dude, you're lucky my knuckles hurt. So
my beard holds up that punch. I'm not worried about it.
I totally lost my train of thought. It's like, because when that when it was stopped and they kind of turned the music down just enough
Mhm.
because there's barely anybody in there. You got the super important people that are way up top getting ready to go have lunch because they in essence support the program. Uh I'm just like, at no point did I think, ooh, rabbit ears, Micah.
Mhm.
I was like, ooh, listen, take this in. And he looked dead at me and he said, well, at least you can't accuse him of playing favorites. He got everybody. And I just was like, whew, thank you, sweet baby Jesus. It's actually working because
Yeah.
you want people to see that it's not personal.
Yeah.
If it comes from a place of love, I want the best for you. People can receive
Yes.
just about anything.
If they genuinely believe that you've got their best interest
Yeah.
at heart.
Because, I think I've maybe shared a story or two about him stopping practice before.
Mhm.
I hadn't seen it in a while, but I'm not there a ton
Yeah.
in between either, especially in season. Like I'm never there, obviously. Um, but I've seen that one other time, and it was over something that I felt was not ultra important. You're talking about being off 3 plays in 1 minute or 2 minutes
Mhm.
and wanting to get back on the quote unquote same page.
Mhm.
I didn't know if it should have elicited that response, but I didn't care at that point. I'm just like, all right, this is how we're doing business. The standard is definitely the standard. So on Saturday, and I told Coach Rhule, I said, I'm so glad the cat's out of the bag because I've been sitting on this
Mhm.
forever because I think it's a microcosm of everything that we talk about. The greater good, the high level competition, the intense environment, the responding well, or how whatever you respond to from the stimuli.
Mhm.
We were talking about it at the dinner table yesterday, and it was like, some people said, "Oh, I would have folded, or I wouldn't have been able to handle it," and some other people were like, "Hey, that's what I need. I want to know where I'm at." Wherever you're at on that spectrum,
Mhm.
the thing that you know the most is right where you're at.
Mhm.
Then it's up to you. That's I don't know. People at that age don't understand the power in having control
Mhm.
over that because the older you get, the harder it is.
Usually the less you have control over.
Right?
Yeah.
See, right now is like
You're 20,
this is
19, 20,
this is
21 years
this is
old.
peak.
You got a lot that you have control over.
Yeah,
A lot.
right? And you're being asked to control the controllables. Listen, we want effort.
Yeah.
Right? That guy runs through your face. Don't take that. No, that guy breaks you down in the open field.
'Cause let me ask you this. When we talk about the standard for Nebraska football, the standard that Matt Rhule talks about, that Tony White talks about, everybody else talks about, right? How much of it is performance based?
Uh Very little.
That's my point.
I think this I think
Because you can't always control performance, right?
I think he would
You can,
it's a lot of effort and toughness.
yes, those are the things that you can control.
Right?
That's
But they
why,
will get into the mental side, but I do
sure.
think
But again, the mental side are things that
it's
you can
either
control.
secondary or tertiary. I think there's a standard of physicality and tempo
Mhm.
that is a non-negotiable.
Which are things that you can control.
Yeah.
Those are not things that, this player made a great play. They're not results based.
Yeah.
The standard is not results based.
Yeah, like
That's why you can have control over meeting that standard.
Man ball you made a play. Oh my goodness. See, one-on-one, some people like you got to check their pants, right? Total bedwetters.
Mhm.
They'll some guys embrace that. Me, you, game changer, saver,
Yeah,
boom.
1v1, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how can I close it? So you'll get a sense over who can thrive in those environments.
Mhm.
And it's contagious. It's contagious. When you see good tackling or good hard running
Mhm.
or traffic catches, it's contagious because people look and they say, "Up, if I don't do that, that's going to look really bad. If I turn down that tackle, you kidding me? He was willing to get ran over."
Mhm.
or man, he put his body on the line right there to get this guy out of bounds. Like that happens like 1, 2, 3 times in a row. You're terrified to not be that guy.
Well, and this is why I bring that up, because it's important that the standard be controllable, because then it can be consistent, right? Results aren't consistent, right? They're context-based, they're opponent-based, they're your performance-based. Maybe you're not at your top physically, right?
Yeah.
Come November, you're not going to feel as good as you do on June 1st, right?
Mm.
If the standard isn't performance, results, physical-based most of the time, if that's all secondary or tertiary issues, then the standard can be enforced consistently. And that's when you don't have these ups and downs of, well, we played really good against this team, but then we had the bottom fall out against this team, and then we kind of played down to the level of our opponent against this team. If you have a consistent standard, then those things start to even out.
Mhm.
That's why that's important. In a way that playing the results standard, it's like, oh, we have to get X number of tackles and we have to have so many sacks per game and whatever. That isn't consistent because you can't control that.
Dude, the funny thing about you saying that is it's the total opposite of the way the fans think.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's usually where there's ways to disconnect, because we're like, okay, did you win or did you lose?
Yeah, because that's what matters to us.
Right. So
But you
that's
got to
what-
go further up the line.
that's why consistency in the message matters,
Mhm.
because it can bring us down to where we can actually see what the end game is.